Hello, and you are listening to The Book Was Better, the podcast where we talk about the book of the film. I'm Luke.
I'm Lauren.
And this week we're talking about Doom.
Hey you, put down the popcorn and turn on the light. It's gonna be alright, my friend. In the end, take my hand. Trust me, the book was better.
We are doomed, Lauren. At least I certainly felt doomed after enduring both the book and the film of this classic video game adaptation.
Yes. Did you ever play the video game yourself?
Yeah, of course. Like, that was one of the... What I remember about Doom, the very first time I played it was... it's one of those, like, first 3D games, you know, and is such a huge step ahead of something like Wolfenstein was. And I remember that the biggest thing for me was the fact that suddenly you could look at the ceiling.
Great.
Yeah, because I don't think that had ever happened in a game before. Like, Wolfenstein's just these straight corridors with a set point of view, and suddenly you can look up and down, and there's a ceiling. It's amazing.
Were there monsters on the ceiling?
I don't know, but that was the thing. I mean, and there's... All the villains are the same in Wolfenstein. They're just all Nazis, except for Hitler at the end. But in Doom, suddenly you've got all these, like, big circular beholder-looking things with big eyes and all these demons spewing out of hell. All these wonderful things that are not appearing in the book, the film, or today's episode, essentially. I think there's like a couple of minor monsters, but if you're looking for a guy just shooting the shit out of giant spheres with eyes and teeth and horns that are spewing out of a hellhole, then no. This isn't the film for you.
Well, I had never played the game. I am a master at watching other people play games, so I have seen other people play Doom. But I did see the movie in theaters.
As did I.
Yeah.
Yep. And 2005 this is, which is kind of crazy because it looks and feels very much like a 90s film.
It does, yeah. Well, it was one of the earlier video game adaptation movies, right? Isn't it?
Oh, yeah, because they got so much better after this.
Yeah, this wasn't bad. I still kind of liked it.
Well, you know, that seems to be the consensus online. People saying, oh, you know what? People are harsh on this. It's not that bad. I think it is really bad. I think it's bad because it's so lazy. Like, it's not well written. The characters are awful. It's incredibly offensive. Like, it's a totally misogynistic film, as we're going to get into as this continues.
The book is worse, believe it or not. The book is worse.
I noticed that in the film, though, as well. And to go, oh, yeah, well, that was a different time. No, it was 10 years ago. Yeah.
It was only 10 years. That's not that long ago. 10 years. No,
exactly. So it's pretty disappointing on that level. And also, it's just... it's basically Alien crossed with Event Horizon. So there's nothing new here. There's all these... it's really a collection of cliches. And to think that you've got Carl Urban and The Rock heading this thing up.
And it was one of The Rock's earlier movies, so he hadn't gotten that rock charm. Like, now, Dwayne Johnson, I love him. He's so, like, funny and charming and whatever.
Yeah,
None
two
of that
actors that are filled with charisma, but it strikes me also as so strange that Carl Urban, like, America would consider as this, like, tough, badass, like, space marine guy. I mean, he looks like Adam Scott, for Christ's sake.
They keep trying, because he was in, he was the bad guy in Priest, the evil vampire guy, and they keep trying to make him an action guy.
I accept him as Dredd, but Dredd is so bulked up and kind of so over the top that it kind of works. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know about this. But look, we're going to get in there. We're going to see all the details as we go. You picked this book, Lauren. I'm glad you did. It was on the short list. I did give you a short list. It is incredibly, like, we've done a lot of junior novelizations lately. We've done things like Flipper and Lassie. This is one of those hardcore kind of Terminator-y sort of lots of swearing, lots of gore, pretty hardcore book, which is going to be an interesting challenge for us, Lauren, because I know you do not like to swear on the podcast.
That's right. So we'll have a little fun with the not swearing again.
I might have fun with the actual real swearing.
Okay.
At my older age, there's not many things that excite me anymore, and cussing is one of them still.
It never gets old.
Yeah, but look, we'll see how we go and see what happens with the old Doommobile.
All right. The beginning, a good place to start, right?
Well, let's first give a little bit of credit to the author, huh? So this is by John Shirley, who has dipped his toe in the old video game pond many a time before. He's written books about Bioshock, Borderlands, and also done some novelizations. Novelization for Constantine, the Keanu Reeves battling in hell movie.
Did you do that one yet? Because I could see that might be a good stay tuned for the podcast someday.
I have a feeling that's better than this, though, right?
I don't know. Maybe. I've seen that too, but I don't know.
We shall find out. But okay, now I'll allow the beginning.
Okay. A dark corridor, deep underground, a single shriek quickly cut off. The sound of running feet coming closer.
Pounding down the corridor, Dr. Todd Carmack couldn't see his pursuers, couldn't hear them, couldn't smell them, not here, but he knew they were behind him, gaining around on him and the other 5 scientists.
Oh yeah, the things were solid enough, loud and reeking enough, and murderous enough. One of them had stood over him as he lay on his back at the lab, dripping drool on him, gnashing its teeth in anticipation. A lab technician's raggedy, severed arm still clutched in its talons. Carmack
I'm sorry. You go. I'm sorry. I thought you paused for me, but that's fine.
No, I didn't. Sorry.
No,
I don't have that much
I'm sorry. Look, it was excellent what you were doing. So just please go back to it. I'm so sorry.
Carmack had pulled the limp.
I'm sorry, dear listener. Can the listener forgive me, because I feel they were probably feeling like they were right there along with Dr. Todd Carmack in the tunnels with all these gnashing creatures. I came in and I spoiled it. So please go ahead. I'm not going to interrupt you again.
Carmack had pulled the limp, semi-conscious Dr. Norris onto him, putting Norris between him and that thing. It had to go through Norris's body first, and that had given Dr. Carmack a moment to scramble away and start the headlong flight down this corridor.
You keep going.
But Norris's sobbing screams still echoed around Carmack's skull. They seemed to echo down the corridor and up through the level of labs. Despairing screams shivering over the archaeological digs, reverberating across the poisoned surface of the planet Alduve.
Legs and arms pumping, sweat streaming down his face, Carmack figured that he was going to die of a heart attack before he got to that heavy door. He was 60 fucking years old, for God's sake. His thudding heart was trying to climb out of his chest, and every breath slashed his lungs like the scalpels he'd used on the subjects in the lab. Look, Lauren, it's been a long time since we've done one of these adult novels for real men. And we've got swears, we've got interior monologues, we've got metaphors. We are back in real... This is a piece of literature.
Yeah, it's a piece of something.
It is a piece of shit. So, Carmack, speaking of pieces of shit, he turns out to be a bit of one. He's already using his colleagues here as meat shields. Then, while everybody else is getting murdered by these shadowy beasts, this happens.
A dark Carmack turned sideways and forced himself through the opening into the lab, immediately punching at the interior control panel. He jabbed the emergency close and lock button.
Dr. Carmack, Tallman yelled, and shoved her arm through to stop the door closing. It slammed shut on her upper limb with a sickening crunch. Tallman gave out a piteous squeal, her trapped arm twitching.
One of the others shrilled, "For God's sake, Carmack!"
It was a matter of triage, Carmack thought, floundering inwardly for justification. There was no way they could all make it.
Tallman shrieked, her twitching arm going blue, and then it was dragged upward as something smashed her body about. flew ceilingward in the space left by the partly open door, smacked hard into the top of the frame with shattering force, only to immediately whip downward again, slapping the floor like the dead meat it had become. Something was wrenching Dr. Tallman's body. Something else was at the other's. Carmack could hear them sobbing, could hear enormous jaws gnashing, flesh wetly rending.
Oh my goodness. Oh my stars and garters, Lauren, get me some smelling salts, because this is intense. And you can tell, again, that this is an adult book, because I think in the film, the arm gets ripped off in about a second. It takes about a page and a half to be severed. It's like James Franco in 28 hours. 27 hours?
127 hours.
Jeez, I sold him short.
Oh.
That's why I've never seen that film. It's too long. I don't know what it's about.
Oh, it's good.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Do they have an intermission?
Like The Sound of Music? No.
Around the 70-hour mark? Anyway, as Cormac watches everything go to shit around him, we get our title check. Don't you love that in a movie when a character says the title?
It's the best part, I always say. He said the name in the movie.
Yeah, like in when Macaulay Culkin goes, looks like I'm home alone. And when Liam Neeson goes, you know what, pal? I'm going to add you to Schindler's List.
I don't remember that part.
You don't remember? That's a really good bit. What about when an author gives us the title, though? Here we go. And a feeling washed over Carmack as he watched the hopeless countdown, a feeling that was also a realization of his fate. So this is it, he thought. This is what doom feels like.
Dun, dun, dun!
Not a bad beginning from John Shirley. He's certainly, with your imagination, picturing all these things and the way he really makes a meal out of a lot of this sci-fi violence, you could certainly be tricked into thinking that it's far more impressive than it is on the screen.
Yeah, it seems a lot more exciting until later on. We'll get there.
Theater of the mind, babies.
Yeah.
So, are we ready to meet the cast? We talked about them briefly. Should we meet Mr. Carl Urban himself?
Sure. Reaper is on point that hot, wet dusk on the edge of the methane fields 5 miles north of the fuel processing center. Reaper is buzz-cut, clean-shaven with sharp features, 2 dark slashes for eyebrows, and dark eyes as grim as his name. His real name is John Grimm. The other guys in the Praveen's, slang for privatized Marines, call him Reaper, and by now he answers to it. Monikers are a tradition in their unit.
You know how in the movie we're introduced to their monikers by the guns, say their names?
Yeah.
I so thought it said Raper.
Me too!
Yeah, and I was like, oh, this guy, I don't know about this guy.
The computer totally said Raper.
It's Raper, and he was like, that's a glitch. I'm pretty sure. I'm going to get that fixed.
Yeah.
How's this, though? I work with a lot of models, alternative models and stuff, and what a lot of them do is they shave off their eyebrows. And they draw them on with makeup, which can make them look a little stern sometimes. Like they come in and I'm like, "Hey, I don't want any trouble, buddy. All right, I'm just here to take a photo.
Calm down.
Give me this attitude straight out." But this is how badass. Like his name's already Grim. And now he's got Reaper as well. He's the Grim Reaper. But not only has he shaven off his eyebrows, he's carved them into his forehead. 2 dark slits. Terrifying.
Uh-huh.
I don't understand metaphors, so...
I was thinking of another dark slit. Sorry.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Rosamund Pike's going to turn up later.
Yeah.
So, the rest of the team are here. There's a Japanese guy called Mac. Mm-hmm. There's a bulky, implacable black man who they call Destroyer. Yeah. I'm not sure what he's the destroyer of.
Never mind.
Looking at this side here.
Black slits.
I was gonna say toilets, but I think you might be onto something there. We destroyed everything he came into contact with. There's the tall, wiry Duke, the twitchy Jumper,
aka Dead Meat.
In where you come from, he's probably called Sweater, and Goat, who he's got a little bit of a goat beard, and Portman, who is basically a disgusting human being.
Yeah, they couldn't be bothered to give him a nickname because he sucks so bad.
Oh, what a character actor as well. I mean, that guy
Yeah.
just looks like shit. He
Yeah.
looks like he just wormed out of a hole somewhere.
And later on, they'll get a chick
Yes.
later.
The Gone Girl.
The girl.
And this mission that they're on in the jungle is all Reaper remembering. It doesn't appear in the film, does it?
Nope, not at all. He has
No,
no
so-
characterization at all in the
Yes,
movie.
this is just classic novelization padding. Reaper tensed under the glass, fitfully opening his eyes, but seeing only that day in the rain. Seeing, and what he sees, Lauren, is some amazing dialogue like this. You do the first line, I'll do the second.
All right. Yes, sir. Jumper, I'm just a corporal. You don't have to call me sir, goddammit.
Hey, I like calling you sir. You're such a macho hot pants of a swingin' dick.
I don't even understand what that means.
If you go to Wikipedia and you look up Carl Urban, underneath his picture it says a macho hot pants of a swingin' dick.
Are you serious? No.
I am, Lauren. I am.
Oh, you tricked me again.
Oh, I'm Loki, the god of mischief. So, Reaper also says stuff like, nah, not yet, bro. Which is,
Bro.
look, so Australian. I was waiting for him to break a plugger
Oh, yeah. Is he
while
he's
running
one
through
of yours?
the jungle. Yeah,
Carl
well,
Urban?
I think he's from New Zealand, isn't he?
I
One
was
of
just
those.
loving hearing his awful American accent and his and Rosamund Pike's awful American accent too.
Yeah, yeah. I don't. It's hard to think of an Australian that does a good American accent. That was like Hugh Jackman in Eddie the Eagle, just that I saw recently. Makes a terrible American. You know, one, the accent's just not convincing, but two, he doesn't have that killer American instinct. Like, he can pretend, like, I'm Wolverine, etc., but, like, real Americans are far scarier than Wolverine. They've
Wolverine's
got this-
Canadian,
Yeah, exactly.
so
So, that's some Degrassi stuff. That's where he went to school.
oh, he's from Madripoor. No,
He hung out in Madripoor a lot. Called himself Patch.
Patch. Yeah.
I just did that thing again. I'm trying not to do the thing where I like mention a country and then pick some stupid old thing. Like just how Americans go, oh, there's that ad with Paul Hogan. And then we just mentioned Canada and I go, oh, Degrassi. It's the exact same thing. I'm doing the same thing that I complain about all the time.
You were complaining about that ad with Paul Hogan and how it's so old, but we still say it. It's because it's
Yeah.
on another ad now without Paul Hogan.
Oh, well, fuck
I was
that.
gonna clear that up for you guys that it still is on the ads for Outback Steakhouse.
Oh, fuck those guys.
Yeah, so that's why people still say it, I think.
That's ridiculous. They're prawns, people. Anyway, it turns out that this mission they're on, it was all a trap. Jumper is killed because of Reaper's error. People basically get their faces graphically shot off, and then Reaper awakes to his lady psych. Now, look, she's a psychiatrist. She's done all the work. I want to know, this is a novelization written by a man for other men. Is she hot?
John Grimm, are you with us? The lady psych tech's face. A pretty girl, really, if a bit pudgy, smiling down at him.
Wow. That says it all, doesn't it? Because it's how she looks, how attractive she is to him is really irrelevant to her job here, to like what she's actually here to do. And so not only we are judging her attractiveness, but it's like it's sort of a bit of a critique as well. She's pretty, but she's a little fat, you know?
Oh no, you can't be smart and pretty.
No.
Right.
It never
Novelization
happens.
rules.
So the crew, now they've got a replacement for Jumper called Cardigan, called Kid. He's called the Kid because he's the kid. They're all in the barracks, and basically they're waiting to go on leave.
The others were getting ready for leave too, or already packed. Portman was checking his kit for the third time to see if he'd remembered his condoms. Goat kneeling at his bunk praying. That's what he'd been doing a lot for the last 6 weeks. Praying. Oh man, those
yeah.
prayers. Oh,
Yes.
what freaks.
Don't do him a lot of good, do they? In the long
No.
run. God's not a goat fan, as it will turn out later. But yeah, he's praying about everything, hoping to be rescued. Say, I don't know. Maybe he's just praying for a new car or something. We don't really find out. And there's fruit. I always complain about in American novels, there's only 3 types of food: pizza, hamburgers, and hot dogs. And some fruit appears both in the book and film.
I had the same thought as you. I said, wow, fruit!
This is amazing, but what are they doing with it, is the question.
Mac was pitching oranges the length of the room to Destroyer, who was up to bat, teeth bared. Reaper thought about complaining about the mess they were making as Destroyer swung the bat, making the orange into a juicy, disintegrating ground ball splattered down the aisle between the bunks.
His teeth bared. He's so angry at the concept of fruit. The fact that they have been given fruit, this bunch of very manly carnivores, they are incredibly disappointed by all of this. I reckon Destroyer would rather eat the pudgy lady Psyche than a piece of this fruit here.
Yeah, I guess.
If it came down to it.
You can read the next part.
All right.
I'll let you.
Here's a perfect example of just how charming Portman is. I said he was a piece of filth before. Here's some proof. "I'm going down to El Honto," Portman said, a dreamy look coming into his eyes, just as if he was going to talk about sitting on the porch with his dear old granny. "Lock myself in a motel with a bottle of tequila and 3 she-boys."
Ew.
Don't think the Tumblr of 2016 would be a huge Portman fan.
Yeah, but maybe, what's his face? I'm gonna mess up this joke. That Baldwin guy. He'd be a huge fan. Adam Baldwin, he'd be like, yeah, Portman.
Adam Baldwin essentially is Portman. And, he just as easily could have been cast in this thing, really.
I know. That would have been a better joke if I'd remembered his name sooner.
Right in his wheelhouse. What I want to say about that, I said that before about Adam Baldwin, but it's one of those things because we talk a lot about the shitty opinions that people have, like those Gamergate guys, and the way that spills into all sorts of stuff, like the attitude shown with the female Ghostbusters trailer and all that. And we all get angry and our blood pressure goes up and we're like, oh, these pieces of shit. But the great thing about seeing Adam Baldwin in person, which I did last year when he was here for one of the Comic Cons for Supernova, is that you realize just how impotent it is, really. Like, a lot of these people that are saying that sort of stuff online that gets your blood boiling, if you saw them in person, you would probably just feel sorry for them, because you realize there's so many other things that are wrong that have even led them to hold those kinds of opinions. And, the reason they, all kind of barrack around someone like Adam Baldwin is because, he's not socially awkward. He is someone who's confident, he's a celebrity, he talks well, he's actually quite charming in person. So, because all these people lack those kind of skills, I think they kind of hook their trailer to someone like that. But even him, you just look at him and you go, yeah, you're kind of this sort of middle-aged guy, and you can say all this shit, but it has more power on the internet than it does in person, because in person you're just a dude. Yeah,
that's the joy and the awfulness of the internet summed up, because you can say whatever you want, but when you actually meet a person, it's hard to say all that horrible stuff because you see a real person in front of you.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So,
deep thoughts.
Yes, look, we mix it up. We got a bit of everything on this show. No one's ever not accused us of being deep thinkers. So, wow. I meant throaters. So, more incredibly ham-fisted, ominous foreshadowing here.
He put the gun aside and went to pack his duffel, but he was wasting his time packing for R&R. He didn't know it yet, but he wasn't going on furlough. He was going to hell.
Whoa! And that's how the chapter ends. God, what a page turner. Not since the Da Vinci Code. How could you not read the next chapter after hearing that he was going to hell? Because, as I said before, the Doom game is all about demons spilling out of hell all over the place, on Mars, no less. So, I'm looking forward to that, even though we kind of know the film throws away all that hell stuff. But anyway...
It's kind of like an origin story. This is where all the monsters came from. Now go play the game and blow them up yourself.
Yeah, except in the game they came from hell.
Oh. See?
And this is just lab stuff. But anyway.
This is what happens when you let your boyfriend pick the movie you go see.
That's right. So, we're going to meet Sarge, also known as The Rock. In the dimly lit Spartan NCO quarters down the hall sat the NCO himself, the guy whose men just called him Sarge. He sat on his bunk shirtless, staring at a blank wall. Big guy, about as muscular as you can be without being pussy enough to resort to steroids. Head shaved, dark skin reflecting his indeterminate racial mix. But you could see the tattoos. He's a living canvas for tattoos muraling his massive shoulders, down his arms, across his chest, each one a souvenir of a campaign or an invasion. An invasion of a whorehouse in some cases.
He didn't have any tattoos, though.
Oh, he had one big one across his back.
He had one, a really terrible, like, Sharpied-on Semper Fi.
Yeah. Well, they didn't have a lot of big budget on this film if the actual film didn't clue you into that.
How did you feel about the description? You always like to talk about how they describe people's races, right?
This was a guy that in 2005 wasn't willing to look on Wikipedia, basically.
Indeterminate race. I'm like, actually, I think he's Samoan. It's pretty easy to look up.
What I like about this, and it comes back again, is this total insecurity about the masculinity of these characters. There's so many times in the book where it's like he didn't want to be a pussy, or he wasn't going to be pussy enough to do this, or this, like, and when you think this is a man writing about big muscular men for other men and trying to convince you the whole time about how brave and masculine they are, it's so homoerotic. And it's also just so insecure. There's almost this, like, no homo, though, level of talking about wanting to have sex with women. Like, every time women are mentioned, they're either whores or even the scientists. It's the characters are evaluating whether or not they would have sex with them or what's the quickest way to try and convince them to have sex with them. I mean, Duke later on is going to outright ask her to have sex with him about 5 times. So, it's a really, really weird mix and really scary to think that this was naturalized 10 years ago because, like, looking up Doom and talking about it and people saying their opinion on the movie, nobody seems concerned about this at all.
Well, a lot of the sex stuff wasn't in the movie, but...
it is, though. It is.
It is a little bit, but it's worse in the book, I think.
It's sometimes worse in the movie. We'll get to some of those examples as we go.
I love the part in the book, this is later, where Duke wonders if he has sex with Samantha, is it like having sex with Reaper?
Yeah, because
they're twins.
Spoilers.
Like, ew.
Well, as we know, they've both got dark dashes. So Sarge brings the bad news that vacation is cancelled and they're going to Olduvai, which is on Mars, to investigate the goings-on that have just happened. And here's a little bit of gun porn as they prep.
When they properly charged it, it had the power to fire ionized plasma capable of breaking down the bonds of the target's molecules. Though it looked as primitive as a triceratops, it was sophisticated. If anything, this murderous gun could be called sophisticated. Portman chuckled, hefting the plasma rifle. It made him feel like his balls had just doubled in size.
See what I mean? This whole thing. I mean, I guess it's ridiculous to the point where I'm sure John Shirley, if you questioned him now, would say it's satirical. Like, I looked at this thing and decided, yep, I'm just going to go with it, and I'm going to... that's what I would say, at least, if I'd written this.
Just like The Room is really meant to be a comedy, Tommy Wiseau. Sure.
Nailed it. So, Sarge doesn't want Reaper to go because of all his psychological things. And because he's a raper. But he decides to go anyway. He turns up on the dropship, and they learn that they are traveling to Mars via the extremely vague Arc Chamber.
The kids stared at the Arc containment cylinder. From there, they would be individually projected through a wormhole across space and onto the surface of the region of Mars known as Olduvai.
So yeah, it's really just like this big glob of mercury, like liquid thing. Sarge cocked his weapon and walked over to the Ark. Lucky he didn't weapon his cock. He stepped within its range of sensitivity. It expanded to envelop his body in a glistening, faintly wobbling globular shell, until, in a flash of blue light, it condensed back to its original size, as if it had swallowed Sarge and digested him. Sarge was gone. And I think, like, it's an interesting kind of thing. I guess it's a sort of Stargate just travel there instantly kind of thing. But at the same time, you never get that sense of journey in this film. And the two sides of the arc, the compound where it is and then the compound that they're going to, are far, far too similar that it becomes really confusing at the end, especially considering this movie has about 2 lights in it. Like, it's so dark and murky that you don't know where you are or what's going on.
Yeah, not a lot of set design going on.
And
there.
They go to Mars and they meet the half-mechanical Pinky, who's played by Dexter Fletcher, who directed Eddie the Eagle, from Dexter Fletcher from Press Gang.
Ah.
And his bottom half, how would you describe it?
His bottom half is a wheelchair with a spine going up into his spine and wheels. Missing.
Yeah, because it turns out that his ass is missing. Like, when they were first doing this arc stuff, he went one way and his ass went a completely other way and ended up somewhere else.
Yeah. And they somehow saved him. I don't know.
But they never found his ass.
I guess not. It probably is out on the moon.
Could be. A full moon on the moon. Might have ended up at the Rock's place and he just went, I'm just going to keep this secret. And Portman refers to Pinky as a gimp. But then is distracted by Samantha Grimm. Now, this is Rosamund Pike.
Yes.
From Gone Girl.
One of her early roles.
Yes. A beggars can't be choosers role. And what I want to know is she hot?
Portman was hitting on a couple of minor female technicians with nice legs. Hey, we're up here on vacation and we were wondering what you ladies are doing later. They looked at each other, amused, and not at all tempted. He broke off, seeing Samantha Grimm, who was in a whole different league from the techs. Flat out gorgeous, and with absolute minimum makeup. Hold that thought, Portman mumbled to the techs, turning instead to Samantha as she walked towards them. Excuse me, we're up here on vacation, and we wondered...
Now, this is worse in the film, because in the film, he's saying that they're running an evacuation and that he needs to strip search them all.
Yes.
And then he says the same thing to Samantha. He wants to strip search her. So not only is it just, like, kind of rude, unfunny, sort of sexist stuff, and I understand that Portman's supposed to be a revolting character, but it's such an assault. I mean, he's this hideous guy. He's a huge, intimidating guy. They've got guns, for Christ's sake, and they're supposed to be here in a professional capacity in order to help these people that he's basically getting rapey on within seconds of arriving. So it's such a horrible situation that is kind of naturalized in the film.
Yeah, they totally don't even look offended at all or whatever, the women. They're just like, oh, that Marine, tee-hee.
But no, I'm kidding about all that stuff. Is she hot?
She had light eyes, strawberry blonde hair, the suggestion of a dimple in her chin, but her expression was all business.
I guess they do describe the physicality of the men a lot because they want to get into that rippling body, muscular sort of thing. So, I don't know. I guess however way you slice it, it's a one-handed read. And it turns out that she's got a doctorate in archaeological genetics, but I'm just like, sure, but how are the breasts? That's what we want to know, right?
She isn't wearing a bra in the movie, so...
See, I didn't even notice that, Lauren.
Yeah,
That's how progressive I am.
It was very cold on set.
Yeah. And she wants to retrieve some data, but the men want to blow shit up. But she gets to go along for the ride as they go on their mission. And turns out that it's not just Portman who is gross.
Duke and Destroyer ambled over, Duke nudging Reaper. Tell me you didn't let a fine-looking piece of ass like that get away from you, Reaper. Evidently, Duke thought Sam having the same surname as Reaper meant ex-wife. Sighing, Reaper prudently decided against punching Duke in the nose. She's my sister.
Yeah. She's an archaeological geneticist and a fine piece of ass. So really, I mean, God, she's a keeper. So, as I said, this thing is a mishmash of mostly alien, but with a bit of event horizon. Like, you know, they go, oh, what do we know about the people that were attacked? And they play this horrific recording, just like in Event Horizon. And then it quickly becomes pages of guys with guns roaming dark corridors while they are monitored on screens and things. Oh, and it turns out these guys aren't just misogynistic, but they're racist as well. Mac was looking at the monitor, frowning, trying to decode the floor plans and blips. They're on the move, Pinky told him. After a moment, looking Mac over. Mac was obviously Oriental. He added, "You don't look like a Mac." Mac looked at him expressionally, then recited his full name. Katsuhiko Kumanosuke Takashi. Pinky nodded. So, Mac. And here was me thinking that he was more of a PC.
Wah, wah.
Whoa. Hello. Yeah.
I can't believe in 2005, that this author wrote the word Oriental and wasn't referring to a carpet. Like,
He was Oriental, apparently.
Oh, no.
Yep. And, it doesn't sound like an Asian name. What's your real name? Oh, that name's too hard. You're Mac. Fantastic. So, turns out the animal lab is full of, and I quote, poor little fuckers, and also terrible jokes.
Just to ease the tension, Portman considered making a joke about how they'd find a goat in here with the lab animals, and it'd be one of Goat's relatives. Goat. Get it? But he glanced at Goat's grim face and thought better of it. Goat had even less sense of humor than Sarge.
But he did have a better sense of humor than John Shirley, apparently. Wow. So, that's not in the script or the film. That's what John Shirley brings to the table, is the goat joke.
Get it? Goat? Get it?
Yeah, he
his name
even
is
explains it for a while, for a paragraph. This is where science meets marine eloquence. Yeah, he pointed at a display of fossils, specifically at a preserved humanoid skeleton curled protectively around the skeleton of a child. What the fuck is that? That's Lucy. She turned to the fossil and pretended to introduce Reaper. Lucy, this is my brother John, someone else from the long-lost past.
Zing!
So this is important, that human skeletons were found at the dig on Mars. And it turns out these skeletons, they've got 24 chromosomes instead of 23. And it's something that they seem to have developed at some point through science. And it makes them like superhuman, super strong, they heal fast, and all this other kind of stuff, right?
Right, but not all of them.
No, and we're going to talk about that very, very soon.
Because why? Because science.
Well, because of something really kind of weird, but we'll get there. You remember Dr. Cormac, the guy from the beginning with the severed arm?
Yes.
He survived.
60 years old.
60 snuggling years old.
And
here he is.
Dr. Todd Carmack was half-naked, shivering, babbling, anorexic, and cradling someone else's rotting arm.
Unfortunately, it was the bottom half.
He held a woman's severed limb clutched against his chest. The dead hand's manicured, painted fingernails were touching his face. Unconsciously, Carmack began to nibble one of the red painted fingernails on the stiff, blue-white hand.
It's kind of a nice detail. I think John Shirley does the horror stuff pretty well.
Yeah, he's not a terrible writer, but yeah.
He's just a terrible person. Allegedly. Not really, John. God. We love that you're such a good sport about this. Plugger? Bro?
Does he listen to the show?
Yeah, he's a big fan. He's now. Yeah, so McCormack is acting a little bit weird. He knows me, she pointed out. Dr. Carmack, it's me, Samantha. I'm not going to hurt you. She started towards him. Startled, he shrieked and shied backward into the corner, one hand reaching up to rip his own ear from his head. He flung it at them, reminding Reaper of a monkey flinging offal. Sam stared at the torn-off ear, oozing blood on the floor at her feet. Crazy monkey going apeshit.
And he uses the word awful twice. I was like, ooh, thesaurus.
And then Goat ends up taking the Lord's name in vain and has to carve a cross into his arm as recompense. Is this standard procedure?
No. That's not actually what that commandment means. We won't get into theology, but...
Okay. Oh, we can. Yeah, go on.
Well, it means really not to make any oaths, like make any promises using God's name and then not fulfilling that promise. And promising not to curse anyone in God's name. Not to say God damn it or whatever. That's not what it means.
So, look. We've got proof that Americans skim-read the novel Frankenstein, The Wizard of Oz, Alice in Wonderland, pretty much everything. It makes sense that Goat skim-read the Bible. In fact, I'd be surprised if any of these guys could read, to be honest.
You probably didn't read the Old Testament, which is where it comes from, so...
Yeah, well, why would you read an old one when there's a new one?
I know, whatever, like, totally.
And this is the future. There could be a third one. The new, improved Testament. Oh. So... with pictures. So, Portman and the kid make a little bit of a startling discovery.
They were staring at the body, dead but kneeling, at the back of the room, a blackened corpse of a woman missing an arm, still twitching. Maybe she'd been twitching like that for a long time. The hand of her remaining outstretched arm was gripping a lab tool shoved in a humming, sparking power outlet. Her hair had burned away, her charred clothes clung to her, a garment of ash, flaking away bit by bit with her twitching. The fluid from her eyeballs, mostly cooked away, was still bubbling in their sockets. Portman closed his eyes, forced himself to report. Sarge, we found the body that goes to that arm. But, was she hot?
Well, in the film, she was, right? This doesn't happen in the film. Like, in here, she basically, her face turns into a breakfast. But in the film, she's naked. She's hot and naked and not burnt.
That's right. Mm-hmm.
She, makes a go at him, and they shoot her to death.
Mm-hmm.
And she lays there for the camera lingering on her dead body, even longer than it would linger on a dead Ewok in Return of the Jedi, because essentially because her boobs are out.
Yeah, and then later on there was a dead body with one boob hanging out. They just stopped on it for a second. I was like, what are they doing?
Yeah. Well,
boobs.
Portman collects them. So... Carmack is restrained. It turns out he has this black infection in his blood. Another scientist is found eating lab animals. He's eating a rabbit or something. He gets shot to death. A destroyer has a run-in with a crazy monkey that's in the vents. It's a total alien moment. There's something in the vents above us. But, it's a crazy monkey going apeshit. And they look in the vent, and it's got a little cigar, and it's on roller skates, and it's going round in circles, and it's really cute. But holy crap, we're quite a while into the movie at this point, and monsters. There are actually monsters here. Pinky catches an image of its huge head growing necklace from its hunched, muscle-rippling shoulders turned just enough so that Pinky could make out small tusks in a wide, snarling, bestial mouth. It seemed eyeless, apparently perceiving from membranes in the front of its head. The whole creature was the colour and texture of skin with a second-degree burn. Difficult to see its feet clearly in this cloudy image, but that foot lifted to take a step. Was that a hoof? The enhanced figure in the image was most definitely inhuman and looked like it was designed by nature to be a living kill machine. It's the worst kind of kill machine. So a bit of devil imagery here, right? The hoof?
The hoof, the cloven hooves, and the horns, yeah.
Yeah, something very sinister going on Mars. So I would say, no, Mr. Schwarzenegger, I do not want to get my ass to Mars on account of all the devilry there.
But there might be a three-boobed prostitute, so...
That's true. God, Portman would be in his element.
One hand, other hand.
Then we have the obligatory descent into the sewers, ripped off aliens. The book is far more graphic than the film, though. John Shirley decides to dive right in there and give us all the details.
Most of it was just water, but spotlit in the shaft of light from above, Portman could see human waste swirling by, including bits of toilet paper and small dead animals from the labs. Animals, or parts of them. A string of entrails twined around Portman's leg as he bent over to fit into the tunnel, but it made him slosh forward to join the others, choking with the smell as he went.
It wasn't the only time that Portman saw human waste. He saw it every time he looked in the mirror as well. And Goat, good old Goat, has a revelation in the sewer. Total darkness snapped down around him. Perhaps this was a message from God. He remembered a line from the Bible, Matthew 6:23. If then the light in you is darkness, how great is the darkness? God was showing him the darkness of his own soul.
Sure. I'm sure that's what God is doing.
Is that a fair interpretation of that verse?
I don't know, but I'm going to say no. Probably not.
You just don't trust God. Well, maybe that's why God does not intervene. Instead, there was a flash of spiky teeth, a flicker of something rocketing from its maw, a sickly pink tongue stabbing like a stinger but coming like the tongue of a frog zapping an insect, flying harpoon-like into Goat's throat. And he felt the impact of his neck, stabbing and pumping to gush a fluid into him, a venom or worse. My God, this is a date gone wrong. The tongue straight down the throat, fluid gushing into him. Goat does not know what hit him. Like, buy him a drink first.
That's a little something for the ladies. Powerful tongue. Am I right, ladies?
Sounds more like Reaper's wheelhouse. And yeah, is this unintentional comedy corner here?
Oh. Becoming about 2 feet long, pumping its fluid sac furiously into Goat as it writhed around his body, finishing its work.
Ooh, oh, gosh. I am fanning myself like a southern belle reading this. So a goat appears to die in the lab, and the book does, at least for a moment, seem to have more of the Gates of Hell idea than the film does. So I wonder if it was in the early drafts and then it was abandoned.
As Mac walked over to him, Pinky read the second-to-last entry again. Twined, twined they are into the DNA sequence, the fingerprints of the satanic, the darkest of darkness within us. I dare not call it supernatural, though it also cannot be called part of the natural world as we understand it, but something unhuman and other-dimensional hid the keys to the gates of hell in our DNA. What is its agenda? Who has left this cunning lure for us?
Has there ever been a better sort of entwining and understanding of science and religion working together than the novelization of the film based on the video game Doom?
I'm questioning all of my theology right now. Oh, I'm done. Never mind.
It's pretty deep.
Yeah.
Here's the monster autopsy. That's a classic horror trope. Sam's hand twitched as a particularly noxious smell wafted out of the thing's gullet, and she dropped her penlight down its throat. The light shone from down there like a flashlight from a scarlet, slimy cave. Oh, Mr. Hanson. Shit, she said. She turned to Duke. Hold this open. He hesitated. Didn't want to get near that thing, even dead. Don't be a wuss, Duke. That tore it. A girl calling him a wuss? He had to do it. Totally insecure.
That's like in Back to the Future. Like, what are you, yellow? What?
You chicken?
Chicken?
What are we having for dinner tonight, Mom? Chicken. Oh, nobody serves me chicken. So yeah, it turns out this thing has human organs. So we realize that the people are being infected and turning into these demon-like creatures. And should we talk about the premise just briefly here? It doesn't actually come out so much in this point of the book, but if we understand it now, we understand how the rest of it works. It's that if someone's good and they're infected, they become like sort of superhuman and awesome, but they don't become evil and twisted, like that skeleton that was protecting her child. But the bad people, if you've got a darkness in your soul, you will turn into a monster. And as we've established, a lot of these Marines are absolute shitbags.
Right. Well, it's something about, they said, well, we haven't mapped the whole human genome, so the key to our souls is in there, and if we have evil chromosomes, we're gonna... I was like, haven't we mapped the human genome now? I think we have, actually. But
we haven't, really looked into the good and evil genes. Wouldn't that be great? Wouldn't that be clear? I feel like this is such an American concept that you either are good or bad or evil. And because that would just justify everything, wouldn't it? Oh, they're the evil people, bam, bam. Which is what The Rock essentially does later on. He wants to kill everybody because, well, he thinks they're evil. Stands to reason. Whereas the world is grey.
Yeah. I talked about this recently. I said, if everything was so, you're good, I'm bad, then it's too easy for us, and you're just sloughing your own personal responsibility. being like, oh, well, he's just evil. It's like, no, not everybody starts out that way. Like,
yeah, I
you have to think it over.
Said best. Like, the best example I can think of, which really hit home for me, was when Anakin Skywalker said, but from my point of view, the Jedi are evil. Do you remember that? And I was like, oh, son, bringing people together. So, as we said, the gender stuff here is so fucked.
Duke sighed. Lady, you got no idea. I've been bunked up with a bunch of Marines, none of whom I find remotely attractive for, like, ever. Right now, having sex with me is practically your civic duty. She was careful not to smile at that, though she wanted to. Because she totally wants it. Oh, yeah, every woman totally secretly wants to get sexually harassed.
Well, he is assaulting her. Like I said, she's alone with a big man who is a stranger. He has a gun. He has huge muscles. He's in a position of authority. This should not be happening.
Yeah, and she's a tiny little bit of a thing.
And the fact that John Shirley thinks it's actually quite witty is pretty gross. So, look, this is the point in the novel. There's a turning point here where John Shirley realizes there's not a huge amount of movie left and not a huge amount happens in it, and he still has to fill about 150 pages. So this is where the padding starts to really come in. So there's half a chapter of padding as McCormick converses with the monster in his head.
Yeah.
Often just repeating what he's saying. I am pure darkness, you are pure darkness, etc. Mac, you remember Mac? He gets knocked out of the picture.
He had half a second to see the great reddish thing that hulked over him, snarling before it slashed out with its scythe-like talons. And with one razoring slice, it cut Mac's head off his shoulders. He'd always wondered if a human head remained conscious for a few seconds maybe after being severed from the body. Now he knew. Because from where his head lay on the floor, he was able to watch his own headless, blood-spouting body stagger and fall into the swelling sea of shadows.
Okay, one, is that true? I don't think that's true.
Let's go ask someone who's had their head cut off. Like, I don't know.
And why would he wonder about this? What are the chances of somebody who spends a lot of time wondering about what happens when your head gets sliced off actually getting their head sliced off? Was he psychic?
Maybe.
Did he use the mystic powers of the Orient?
When he was working in his uncle's synthetic sake factory, maybe he thought of that. And I'm not making that up, folks. That's what he did.
Yeah, there's a lot of backstory in here and of all the very mundane backgrounds of these characters, which... rather than as hearing beforehand, like, obviously he never went back with the editing, so all the backstory happens, like, during all these climactic battles. Like, he just completely halts the story to tell the backstory of a character, sometimes a character that's dead.
Yeah.
Just because he realizes, I've got to fill pages. So it's so strange that he didn't even insert that in earlier on. So yeah, the movie and book are very repetitive now. Dark monsters are attacking. There's lots of shooting. There's more grossness as Duke thinks about banging Samantha and remembering his past. This is just awful. He'd made up his mind it was going to be all work and party all the time. Just the job and the party afterwards. No attachment. From here on, he told himself, it'd be whores or women who might as well have been whores. The kind of airheads who went on viddy shows gassing about trying to get a rich bachelor to marry them. Slick sluts.
Yep.
2005.
Yeah.
And you're right, this is, I mean, the script is pretty bad, but this is John Shirley extrapolating on all of that, and these are his own words coming into here, and it's really bad, like, especially when, from that scene before, we're supposed to think that maybe this guy is a little bit charming, and maybe that she is being seduced by this, but this is his, like, attitude.
Where is John Shirley from? He says viddy shows, and he might be British, I don't know.
No, viddy shows, that's futuristic talk. It's probably, you know...
Is it?
Like space dollars.
Like we're going to the Moloko Milk Bar? And...
The Space Milk Bar. So, Sarge is sick of all this shit. He means business. He's gonna sort this stuff out.
He searched the floor. The damn thing was here somewhere. There it was, the woman's severed rotting arm oozing yellow stuff onto the floor tiles. This was weird assignment, all right. He was feeling good that he found a woman's severed rotting arm on the floor. Hot damn!
And that's not your hot damn at reading such an impassioned sentence. The Rock picks up an arm and thinks to himself, hot damn.
Hot damn!
We are not in Kansas anymore. This book is getting pretty surreal. Meanwhile, the Destroyer is destroyed until the two of them crashed into the wall. This is a demon that he's fighting. The electricity searing through both of them now as they tore flesh from each other's bones in the death throes of shared electrocution. Crashing white light, all-consuming darkness, infinite journey to nowhere, and then, good job, son. Welcome to Valhalla.
Yeah, that's not how he died in the movie, but still good.
Didn't he get electrocuted up against the fence? In that pit?
He electrocuted the monster, and then he tried to climb out, and then another monster, slashed him.
Slashed him in the slash.
Yeah.
And then, tons of padding again, more backstories that aren't interesting. Old war stories that basically just up the page count, including that one time Destroyer got his eyebrows burned off. Glad we took some time out for that, because it was getting a little bit tense. I was like, I'm frightened of all the monsters. Tell me a funny story, Shirley. And he went, all right, well, there was this one time when Portman, he gets killed in the toilet.
It's pronounced turlet. Get it straight.
And the turlet.
The turlet.
I just think it's great that Portman had finally learned how to use one. And then Sarge, because, Reaper used to have to hit him over the nose with a rolled up newspaper. Mm. And Sarge uses the hand to open the weapons cache and gets... I'm going to let you do this one.
All right. Reaper looked at the barrel-shaped gun in Sarge's hands. What the hell is that? BFG, Sarge responded calmly, patting the gun affectionately. What's a BFG? Sarge smiled thinly. Big fudgical gun. Reaper could only nod.
Yeah, it was. Wasn't it weird that it was a big fudgicle shaped gun?
It was a big fudgicle gun.
It looked so much like a fudgicle that I thought Daisy Ridley was going to straddle it.
Oh, come on.
That's what her speeder looks like, right?
Oh, I guess.
Don't talk
about Ray like that. Ray's the best.
No, she straddles it to ride it around to go and get food and look.
I know what you were thinking. I know what you were thinking.
Expanding bread.
Sure.
How about those bread rolls? They were pretty amazing, right?
Very good.
What's a BFG? Sarge smiled thinly as a huge hand came in his bedroom window and carried him off to Giant Land.
I thought that too. Big friendly giant.
Yeah.
Roald Dahl, another stand-up guy.
Yes. The new version of that book is called OMG WTF BFG. I stole that from the internet. That's not mine. Okay, but it turns out that I was really not paying attention so much at this point. Sarge is here to protect all the info and the experiments and stuff. He's going to take it back to the corporation. Is that right?
Yeah, he's kind of...
He's like the Paul Reiser from, like in Aliens.
Yeah,
and all this information, by the way, is stored on discs. They couldn't just, put it in the cloud, or he couldn't just email it. He has to take the physical discs there.
Yeah, well, it was 2005.
That's why he has all these muscles, because there's about 20,000 discs, floppy disks, just to carry this information. And then the story is completely halted for about 10 or so pages of the kid. Remember the kid? He's thinking about how he joined the team, and his girl back home, who is a nurse, called... Millie.
Yeah, great. Boring.
And even poor Sam and Reaper are stuck, reminiscing about their childhoods, and this poor prick John Shirley still pads out another 100 pages. To the times when they'd made their own action figures out of bits of old cleaning robots, when they'd watched old movies on the digital feed, and when they toyed with being musicians together, him playing his crude guitar, she banging on a cheap little electric piano, laughing when she hit a sour chord, that laughing girl, and he was leaving her alone in here. A great way to keep the demons fighting Marines tension.
Yeah, there's a whole lot more backstory about the parents and stuff in this, because Reaper and Sam grew up on Mars. And the parents were
Yeah.
killed in some sort of accident or something.
It's all very, very engaging. And then there's a breach with the creatures and the ark. Because the creatures go through the ark. Is that right? To the
Yeah,
other
they
side?
go to Earth. To Nevada.
Where all the evacuees are. So Reaper rushes to find Sam. He wants to bring her back with them, but even though Sarge said no. But you'd think this is an exciting bit. This is the time to pick up the pace. But instead, the book is full of padding, like that time that Reaper won a ribbon in track. And there's even like a word-for-word email from his dad.
Oh, yeah. But it really wasn't from his dad. It was his sister.
Pretending to be his dad. Oh my
Yeah.
God, Reaper.
To make him feel better, because he has daddy issues.
And then on the other side of the arc, things are even more grim for the kid and Sarge.
At their stubby, disfigured feet were what barely recognizable as human bodies, like sides of beef gone over by amphetamine-crazed butchers. Only one of those flayed human beings was still alive. Impossible to tell in what was left of it if it was a man or a woman. But a set of human eyes, missing the eyelids, looked back at them quivering, agonized madness from the wreckage of the flesh.
Quivering, agonized madness from the wreckage of flesh. That's a pretty nice turn of phrase, just like all the horror films beforehand. I've realized this now. All the books that write about horror stuff, it's all about meat, essentially, isn't it?
Yeah, that's true.
They're all very, very meaty books. If you're a vegetarian, I would not recommend reading this book, especially it was a big fuck you to the vegetarians when they smashed the shit out of that fruit. So this conflict is occurring because Sarge basically wants to kill all the evacuees because he believes they're infected, but Sam and Reaper know that they might be good people and therefore they're not going to transform. And when the kid refuses a direct order to gun down all these people, just like Finn in The Force Awakens, this happens.
Go to hell, the kid said. In one swift motion, Sarge swung his arm around towards the kid, leveled the pistol, and fired. He shot the kid through the neck. The kid spun, hit the wall, slumped to the floor. There was a moment of sickened silence. The kid choked, fumbled at his ruined neck, and his whole body began to spasm. Duke said it all for them. Holy shoot.
Holy shoot, he said. Holy sheep.
That's exactly what he said. Holy sheets.
And everything finally goes ballistic. Okay, motherfuckers, Sarge yelled, let's play! Sergeant Reaper and Duke were rushed by at least a dozen walking dead men, their eyes uniformly red, their mouths streaming black blood, their clothes tattered, their faces contorted with the hunger to kill.
I love this next part. In the movie, this part is kind of cool.
Yeah, Duke goes through a grate, but he kind of does it the hard way.
Hard way. Until, with a final vicious tug, he was pulled the rest of the way through the grate. He exploded into bloody fragments, and Sam, watching in horror, bit down so hard on her fists that her own blood flowed. Sam was racked with silent sobs. Reaper went to her, pulled her away from the grate, which was mucky with torn flesh, bone splinters, and part of a face, still trembling.
Yeah, Sam should have been celebrating that this just happened because it's certainly taken some pressure off her.
Yes, definitely. But see, it's all proof that she secretly wanted it, because now she's sad he's dead.
Did you like that scene? I thought it was great.
I thought... I did like that scene, but I like your pun even better.
And bleeding to death, Reaper gets injected with C24. This is the extra chromosome, so that he's all pumped for the final battle. Now, no writing gimmick, unfortunately, here, because obviously the film is most famous for this sequence that happens, which is completely in first person. And it really is the best part of the film, and the part that does feel like Doom.
Yeah, everyone cheered in the theater at this part. It was like, oh, cool.
Yeah, you see the whole thing from his perspective, and it's all one continuous shot. There's all crazy creatures. There is actually like that big thing with the legs and the mouth, and you do actually feel like you're in a Doom game suddenly. So I felt like the pressure should have been on John Shirley to find a way to write that from a sort of different perspective, or to try to, delineate that it was different from everything else. He doesn't. Instead, we get this weirdness.
Reaper turned away, and then he heard a thump as the creature dropped from a hole in the ceiling, all the way from the floor above, howling jeeringly as it came. He spun, and a female imp loomed over him. She had grotesque parodies of breasts, a gnarled sketch of a vagina. The effect was obscene. But was she hot?
Yeah, that's exactly what John Shirley was thinking. He was like, a female imp? Wait, what were the breasts like? Because I don't remember the film being particularly obsessed with this creature's private area.
I don't remember there being a distinction between male or female.
Yeah.
I thought they just looked like big monsters. Like, I don't know.
I think Shirley's seeing what he wants to see at this point. And
Probably.
More blood and gore. Pinky, it's been transformed. He's that boar demon thing, I guess, with the big mouth and the two legs, who gets chainsawed in first person, which is pretty excellent in the film. And it all leads up to the final fight with Sarge. I was bored with it by now. I didn't put a lot of this. Basically, Sarge is infected with C24. He's a bad demon man because he's a shitbag of a person. But he still looks like The Rock. Like, Pinky looks like a Christmas ham with teeth, and The Rock just looks like The Rock with contacts.
Well, you pay for The Rock. You gotta use that face.
That's true. Whereas Dexter Fletcher, you are out of here.
I thought it was interesting in the when I first saw the movie. This is one of The Rock's earlier movies that they made him a bad guy, because he always was a good guy in wrestling. He's like the quintessential good guy wrestler. And then they made him a villain.
According to IMDb, they wanted him to play Reaper. And he said that he wanted to play Sarge because he thought Sarge was more interesting. It's probably right, really. Sarge has like a slight character arc.
Yeah, like Reaper just kind of looks sad.
Yeah.
But it would have been nice for them to try to explain how The Rock and Rosamund Pike were twins.
Yeah, that's true.
No. Who do they got to play his sister?
Michelle Rodriguez.
Oh. I was thinking like Jada Pinkett Smith.
Maybe. Someone of indeterminate race. Why don't you give this line of Sarge's as he races into battle, give it your own unique twist.
Oh, okay. Skidding to a stop, Sarge roared, "Semper Fi, Mother Snuggler!"
Mother Snuggler, which, he had tattooed on his chest. So, fight. The Sarge goes through the arc with a grenade, goes back to Mars, a grenade follows him, he gets blown up, the end. The wormhole chamber on Mars, the atrium, the entire facility, all traces of Carmack's experiments, The Rock's dignity, were consumed, vaporized in the growing fireball. It was a white-hot, fiery roar of a rage, a conflagration that seemed to express all at once the horror and fear and anger at what had taken place here, a blinding light of thermonuclear catharsis. We've given you a lot of crap, John Shirley, but that's a pretty good summation of what just happened. I quite like that turn of phrase. Definitely got some talent, the old John Shirley.
I agree. I was on board with the book early on, but then he kind of lost me in the middle. But because of his good writing
is the ending, and it's quite brief. In fact, you're quite welcome to do the whole thing.
Oh, okay. Instinct, enhanced psychic sensitivity, led Reaper to his sister. She was only dimly conscious as he picked her up, murmuring to soothe her, carrying her to the elevator. It rocketed upward, carrying them to the surface of the facility at Papoose Lake, to the glorious open air of the Nevada wilderness. The explosives he'd set would destroy the last of the genetic demons. Looking up through the open top of the elevator, he could see the sunlight reaching down to greet them. He looked fondly down at her. The sunlight streamed across her face. "Almost home, Sam," he said. She smiled up at him, safe in her brother's arms.
Oh, and then they made out for half an hour.
No. It's kind of cool that the brother and sister live and there's no romance. I kind of like that. Just objectification.
Though she did keep Duke's face for later. She said to Reaper, "Here, put this on."
Oh.
So there we go. That was Doom. We survived it. We got to the other side. I have to ask you, Lauren, because it is my want. Was the book better?
For a while, I was going to say yes. But then all the awful padding and the women hating. I don't know. So, no, I think the movie was better. You get to see lots of gross monsters get blown up.
I think the book has some interesting passages. Like, there's bits where you think that it's going to be so much more exciting than it is on screen, but I think they're both pretty treacherous. I think Shirley does definitely have some skill, but I'm going to go with the film as well, mainly because of the first-person sequence. I mean, really, Doom should have been a short film.
Yeah, that part was the best part, and it made me hella sick. I was watching it on the computer, and I had to go lay down, because...
You are such a baby.
I can't do that. I get motion sick. I have to take Dramamine before I go to the 3D movies.
How do you walk around?
with great difficulty.
Well, fair enough. Only one review on Amazon that I thought was worth mentioning, and often the reviews I pick are people that are like, I done read book, not good book. But this one, the person's eloquent, but I can't help feeling that they're perhaps overselling what this thing actually was. It is a sustained symphony of violence so adeptly handled by the author that when the reader reaches its crescendo, it is all one can do to refrain from tearing the pages out as you turn them. This is straight up Pulp Fiction at its finest. It transports the reader to another world of unbelievable horrors and action in a stylistic manner which renders the whole experience a sustained sense of realism, and that is all one could ask for in a narrative such as this.
Do you think John Shirley wrote that? J.S. Shirley 27?
I think he's a better writer than that. But I will say to the person who wrote this, read more. Read more things.
I have a reading list for you.
Yeah.
Text me. I'll send it to you.
Yeah, if you thought that was, like, that good, there is shit out there that is going to blow your mind, buddy. Because it does get better than movie novelizations, especially movie novelizations of films based on video games.
Oh, yeah.
Never really been a good video game movie. Can you think of one?
Not really. I mean, I guess Resident Evil is okay. She just runs around in a short dress and shoots zombies. Like, that's the first one, I mean, not the rest.
I haven't seen it, so I can't say with any conviction. I'm curious about how this Michael Fassbender of Assassin's Creed is going to turn out. I would be quick to write it off because I'm not a big fan of the Assassin's Creed franchise, except the director is the guy that directed Fassbender and Macbeth, and I thought he was a very strong visual director, and I thought he got an amazing performance out of Fassbender. I thought they worked incredibly well together. He was a great Macbeth, and the fact that these two obviously have a bit of synergy, I'm hoping that they can maybe elevate the material into something that at least is well acted and nice to look at.
Yeah, that could be true. I mean, there's ones that are okay, then there's ones that are just horrendous, like Super Mario Brothers, which had nothing to do with anything that happens in the game. But you're never going to please everyone, as we know.
And of course, we could have a Daisy Ridley Tomb Raider in the not too distant future, so who knows?
I guess Tomb Raider was okay, right? They made 3 of them, I think, or 2 of them?
Two, yeah. Yeah, I don't know. Nothing has rocked my socks, and
Silent Hill? Silent Hill was creepy.
I heard people say that that's not so bad. That's the one I would probably go to in terms of what I've heard of people sort of saying.
It was pretty creepy, weird. Like, I just started playing Silent Hill 2. Welcome to 1998, I know. But I dug my PlayStation 2 out of the attic. And it's pretty creepy.
Yeah, but I feel like horror is a bit more of a no-brainer. I mean, it's such a distinct genre that it's not so much... You know, you're making a horror film. You're not really having to adapt the mechanics or feeling of a video game so much. You
That's
know,
true.
It's far harder, as we've seen in the past, to go, all right, well, Street Fighter or Double Dragon.
Ugh.
Although,
Well, the problem is
damn,
that...
Alyssa Milano looked amazing in that film. Yeah.
Well, those games the problem with some games is they're just like, like Street Fighter. It's like, okay, we fight each other. There's no story in the game even to take. You got to make it up. So that's maybe part of the problem.
There's there that you can explore, give backstories.
Yeah.
There's like a anime Street Fighter movie, which is probably alright. All I remember is that Chun-Li's in the shower and then she gets attacked.
By the log guy? Or no, that's Mortal Kombat.
The log guy? Who's the log guy?
No, it's a Mortal Kombat. There's like a tree guy.
A big lumberjack who throws a log at you and yells, "Timber!"
No, it's a guy made of logs. I was playing and I lost to a boxing kangaroo. Kicked my butt. In Mortal Kombat.
That's Tekken.
That's Tekken? Yeah, I don't even know. I was at a video game bar. I was at Barcade, where they have all the old games. So I want to know, when is the movie of Burger Time coming out? Because Burger Time is my favorite game.
What time's Burger Time?
Every time is Burger Time.
All the time is Burger Time. It was my favorite game as a kid too. I had it on the Intellivision, and
me too.
Absolutely loved it. It was definitely the favorite. Never got particularly far.
Yeah, I had it on Intellivision too, with Q-Bird and Frogbog and all those.
Well, I just want to say, Lauren, as one of the only American co-hosts who endorsing Burger Time, you are definitely on message. I salute you.
You're only American co-host in America.
That's right. So, look, thanks everybody for listening. Please listen to the other shows. FP Cast, the Pop Culture Podcast, is a lot of fun. ScarJo A Go will be back when Hail Caesar hits Blu-ray. Basically, look, you can find out everything at fruitlesspursuits.com. Links to our Facebook discussion page, our iTunes. Rate, review us, please. I would love that. And if you're a super fan, come to Patreon, and then you'll get some extra podcasts, extra content, special episodes on movies, and Book Was Better TV episodes where we read the novelizations of TV shows like Buffy the Vampire Slayer and The X-Files. All that information is on there. It's a lot of fun. And thank you so much, Lauren, for joining me again from the other side of the world.
Thank you for having me. My pleasure.
Yeah, very, very good. And now I've got to edit this beast. So let's get out of here. But was there anything else you wanted to say or mention? Anything that we've missed?
Don't think so.
Perfect. Then you can say the thing.
I'll catch you on the flips.
Jumanji.